So what do you do if the intern comes to you and says, I'm all out of work. Everything you asked me to do early on, I've done. Well, first thing is, it's likely to happen. And particularly if the nature of the work that they're doing is primarily project-oriented. Because we will probably be conservative in our estimates of time as it relates to how much time we think it would do a task or to complete a task. And this really also speaks to the high level of innovation and efficiency that these interns will bring to the assignments you give to them. A real strong characteristic of the millennial generation is a high level of tech savvy. And you can interpret that a lot of different ways, but when you're tech savvy, you know of efficient and effective ways of doing things. You might be able to automate tasks that you would do manually. And you think, well, I don't work in a manufacturing or production environment. What could you automate about what I do? Well, spreadsheets. If you have to manually calculate totals, maybe they know how to write a macro for that. Or you manually produce reports each week or each month on sales, client calls, whatever it might be. Maybe they can create something in an Access database that all you have to do is click a button and the report generates it itself. That's what we talk about when we talk about efficiencies and effectiveness and being tech savvy. So with all that said, plan for it. Expect it. So that when they come to you and say, I know we're only 8 weeks in, but I've done everything you asked me to do. Say, well, that's great. Here's a few other things, okay? So be prepared and expect it. Give some consideration to maybe some nice-to-have projects that they could work on, so that if they come to you, great, you've got them ready to go. And if they don't, by any chance, if they don't, then if the projects don't get done, it's not a huge risk to you and your organization. So be prepared for it to happen and have a couple of nice-to-have projects waiting in the wings. The other thing you can do is turn to the intern and say to them, well, what have you seen that we do that you think we could do differently? This is a huge opportunity for you. Not only did you get all the things done that you wanted to see done as part of this internship experience, now you still have a couple of extra weeks where maybe they can turn their attention to process improvement. And why is that such a good thing? Well, in today's environment, every business is trying to figure out how it can do more with less, get better about its processes and its infrastructure. So that's huge. But why is an intern so well positioned to do that? Well, it's because they have these things called virgin eyes. They don't know enough about what you do, or they're not so close to it that they can't step back and question, why do we do it this way? Is this the only way this can happen? They're not married to any one idea so strongly that they can't see recommendations or opportunities to get better. So that's a great thing you can do if your intern comes to you and says, hey, I'm done with everything you assigned to me. Go put them on the task of process improvement, performance improvement. They'll have some ideas, I guarantee it. The other question you could pose to them is, what had you hoped to do this summer that you haven't? So, going back to that plan, that development plan, things that they had expected to do, hoped to do, but maybe haven't yet, make that the focus of now this excess capacity that they have. And keep in mind that you want to turn it back to benefiting your business. But to be perfectly honest, if they've done all the things that you set out for them to do, and that's going to benefit your business, maybe it's okay if the last couple of weeks are more about them and their development and things they'd hoped to do than it is the tasks that you had outlined for them. With all that said, all this about the innovation and effectiveness and efficiency of your interns, it's important to step back and say, wow, they did that really quick. I'm not so sure how they could have done it that quick. You may want to examine the quality and the performance against expectations. Okay? The point there being that speedy completion may not necessarily equal quality of outcomes. And this is nothing against the intern, but think about for a moment some of the world they lived in up to this point. being able to do things fast is oftentimes highly valued and rewarded and recognized. Right? Don't we always think that the best student in the class is the one who hands the test in first? Right? Or who got the paper done the fastest? There's just much about the system that they're accustomed to that rewards timely, if not early, delivery. Such is not always the case in our working environments. Sometimes it's, well, we allocated 8 weeks to get that done, so we expect it to take 8 weeks, and frankly, even if it would have taken a little longer than 8 weeks, it would be okay because the number one priority is that we do a quality job. So this is not an opportunity necessarily to disparage the work your intern has done for you, but to provide feedback to them to say, I applaud your efforts to get this done so quickly. That is very impressive. But in looking over what you delivered to me, I found some opportunity to go back and revisit the work because it's not quite where we were wanting it to be. And beyond that, there's a few things that we asked for that were overlooked. So just recognize again the perspective they're coming from, which is, I got to get this done quick. That'll mean I'm doing a good job. Versus balancing the perspective that says, we need things done on time for sure, but we also need them to achieve the quality levels we're looking for. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And the final thing about this, and this was again something we touched upon early on in the first session, is that remember the importance of both short and long-term projects. The presence of both will really help the overall management of the summer experience, and I think to a certain extent help you avoid this situation of the intern coming to you and saying, I'm all out of work. Well, how would that work? Well, again, to the sub-bullet there of a good mix is key, is you've got a mix of short and long-term projects, and let's say the long-term projects wrap up faster than expected. They've always got those little short-term things they can turn to. And short-term could also be called standard day-to-day tasks. Those things that are always going to be there for the intern to do and kind of become the gap fill when they can't make any progress on the long-term project. So if those are always there, that will ensure that they've always got some work to do. So instead of figuring out how do I fill up 100% of their time over the next 3 weeks, maybe it's more, well, the long-term projects are complete, and in fact, they meet the expectations we set out as far as quality of outcomes, but they still got these day-to-day tasks that they can continue to work on. I need to find things that fill up 50% of their time for the next 3 weeks. Certainly a better situation than, say, 3 weeks at 100% capacity. So again, just a good reminder, good opportunity to underscore the importance of a good mix of both short and long-term projects in an effort to avoid the intern running out of work.